Search of Lan.
And we are back with another In Search of Lan episode. Unfortunately, Kieran can't be here today, but we do have a very special guest, Mr. Adam Koralik. How are you today, Adam?
I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, man. I just want to say thanks for doing this. Huge fan of your YouTube channel, and thanks for taking the time out of your day to chat with me, man.
Oh, no problem. It's my pleasure. Sorry if you hear any background noises. I live in a city.
When I watch some of your videos, man, I always hear a plane going over and stuff.
No, that's the train. I hate
that's
it.
the train.
That's always the train. I hate it.
Okay.
It's annoying. There's nothing I can do to filter it out. It's just something I have to deal with.
For the people who are watching now who may not know you, who is Adam Koralik and what does he do?
Well, that's me, and I make YouTube videos. No surprise. I talk a lot about things that are going on in gaming. A lot of history of gaming. I kind of make a lot of assorted videos. The one thing I never really do though is actual gameplay videos.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah, but aside from that, I talk a lot about the hardware and the history and my experiences and stuff, but I actually very rarely show games themselves. But I will give recommendations.
I've got to say, I really love your Generation Recap series. I think that's probably the best thing you do, man. It's really cool. It's really
I appreciate
cool.
That's funny, because I get that a lot. That whole series was never something I planned. That was never going to be a thing that I wanted to do. It would just kind of... There was a month there where, the 7th gen consoles were getting put out to pasture because the new ones were coming up. And I was like, that might make an interesting series, just kind of talk about them and see what I thought, overall. I never expected people to be like, holy shit, this is great, I love this. And I was like, really? And then everybody was demanding more. So I was like, all right. Dude, and then I just kept doing it. And then every time I did it, people were like, do more. I was like, yeah, okay. Those get harder to do because the next ones that... Sorry, what?
Oh, sorry, man. You're running out of consoles to do them on now, aren't you?
Yeah, I did the 3rd gen. I'm all the way up down to the 3rd gen. So people are asking me, do the 2nd gen, do the 2nd gen. And I was like, I can, but they get harder because A, I have less of them, and B, they all existed before I was even born. So it's not like there's only a handful of them I even have any childhood memories of.
Yeah.
But none of them that would be relevant. But and then 1st gen is all Pong clones, so that's not going to be a particularly exciting series, but...
Have you ever thought about doing a handheld version of that, the handheld generations? Is that something
my thought process on that is that if I do that, and frankly I probably will at some point, it would be after the consoles are over. I would finish the 2nd gen, I'd do the 1st gen, and then eventually I'd do handhelds. I have no timetable for any of this. It's just kind of
off the cuff
when I can.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, let's get straight into the Shenmue stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
How did you get into Shenmue?
All right, so when that game came out, a friend of mine, I had not heard of it until it was actually released, but a friend of mine was like, hey, we should go to Blockbuster, we should rent Shenmue, we should rent the Shenmue thing. And I was like, all right. And he brings it, we go and rent it, he brings it back, and we're playing it for a while, and I hated it. I hated it totally. I was like, this is awful, this is so boring, you're just running around, I'm like, let's go to the arcade, let's just play in the arcade where you play Hang-On and stuff. What is this? And, I didn't like it at all, which is extremely ironic because now it's my favorite game of all time.
Yeah.
But basically what happened there was I didn't like it, the terrible first impression, and then a couple years later, for whatever reason, I decided to give it another go. I think it was because the Dreamcast was done, and this was everybody was talking about this was its big signature game, and I should really try it. And I was like, all right, I'll try it again. And I just fell in love with it. I was like, I can't believe I didn't get this the first time. And I've said this before, but at that moment, I just wanted to go back and punch the younger version of myself in the face. Just be like, you were an idiot. You didn't know what you were doing. That's another reason you should never, you should try to give things a second shot. If you think you hate it for one reason at a certain age, give it another shot a little bit later. It might change you.
Definitely. It's kind of like that with how I got into Shenmue. My brother was the one who got the Dreamcast first. And he'd been keeping an eye on Shenmue since it was announced. And when he actually bought it, I just wanted to play Sonic, man. I didn't care about Shenmue at all. But then, literally, I think it was not until he traded his Dreamcast in, and then I decided to get one myself. That's when I started playing Shenmue and appreciating it for what it was. It's a really good game, man.
Yeah, hell yeah. You guys got lucky. You guys got Shenmue 2 on the Dreamcast. We got screwed on that one.
I know, man. I couldn't believe that. That's so bad, isn't it? So bad. It is lame. That's the one thing that annoys me about the Xbox release as well, is that they didn't include the Japanese voice on it. Like
that's correct. What also annoys me is they didn't give you Shenmue 1 on the Xbox.
I know.
So like you're supposed to be able to transfer your save from the first game to the second, to carry over your items, but your history, your moves. Like the first game is the game where you learn how to fight and you level up and everything. You can't level up in the second game. So leveling up in game 1 is important because you bring that to the second game, and that's where all your skills are. So when you can't do that, you start off as like a weakling, which was really unnecessary. So if they had done an Xbox version of Shenmue 1, I don't think it would be as big of a deal, but they didn't do that. But yeah, you're right. I would have preferred, especially on the Xbox version where they had more space, if they had the Japanese and English dubbing.
Yeah, exactly, because obviously it was released on a DVD, so there probably would have been the space there.
But yeah,
there
are fan versions of the Xbox one where they replace the audio with the Japanese audio. You can get that, but you have to have like a modded Xbox to use it.
That's a shame, isn't it? Gosh. So moving on with the Shenmue questions. If there is one thing you could change about Shenmue, what would it be?
I think, like historically or just in game.
Just anything, man. Just both.
Well, all right. I guess I would have selected that they had released the Dreamcast version of Shenmue 2 in North America. That would be my number one. If we're talking about in-game mechanics, I would have told them, you got to give us something a little bit more interesting to do at the beginning of Shenmue 1, because that game, as much as I love it, it takes a little too long to get going for most people.
Yeah, definitely.
And that hurt it, because you get one chance at a first impression, and that game, you have to get over a certain hump before you realize how great it is.
Yeah.
And I think most people didn't have patience for that in the Grand Theft Auto 3 era.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So that would be what I would say if to that question.
Okay, fair enough. And what is your favorite location in the game, and why?
Which game? Shenmue 1 or 2?
Both, man.
Shenmue 2 is definitely the Yellowhead building where once you get inside and you have to go up that whole tower. I think that action sequence is one of the best things ever put in a video game. It's just a lot of fun with so many different action beats of different kinds that happen all at once. I don't know. I love that particular section. From an environment standpoint, I think that not Rio's house, but the area right outside of it, Yokosuka, it's just a really cinematically interesting looking place.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can kind of go anywhere, even though there's really no point, I really like that. I think it's just a very, I don't know how to, it's like, it's got this warm, small town type of vibe, but I don't know how to say it. It's just nice. I like that space. I never really felt that with Shenmue 2 because Shenmue 2 was so big that it was almost like you never really get attached to the locations. I
know what you mean. Yeah, it's like me and my brother. We kind of have this joke between us. Like Shenmue 1, it's like really immersive and so highly detailed. It's like it feels like you're actually going on holiday. Like you actually feel like you're there. And everyone I've spoken to about Shenmue, they basically say what you've just said. Like Shenmue 1 felt a lot more intimate, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
Compared to number 2, yeah. Obviously, you're a big collector to the people who watch your YouTube channel. What is your most prized Shenmue item in your collection?
I'm the proud owner of a signed copy of Shenmue 1 that's signed by Yu Suzuki and Corey Marshall.
Dude,
I met Corey Marshall in Los Angeles, and he came over to hang out with me, actually. And he signed it right there in front of me. And a buddy of mine met Yu Suzuki and had him sign it. So it's signed by the two of them. So that's my number one Shenmue prize.
Nice, man. I'm so jealous. I think I saw that video. It's like you're lying on a bed with him or something.
Yeah, that was with Corey Marshall, yeah.
yeah. That's cool, man.
Yeah, that was fun.
So, like, obviously, looking forward into the future of Shenmue now. Shenmue 3 was announced E3 last year.
Was?
Thank God.
Yeah, good. Sorry. Surprise. Okay.
So with Shenmue 3, what aspect are you looking forward to the most? Obviously, hopefully the story. Well, actually, no. He said that it's not going to be fully concluded. If I'm correct with that.
You are correct. He said he wants to do at least a fourth game. He prefers a fifth. So prepare yourself, guys. We may be going through this battle again after Shenmue 3 is out.
We'll get stuck in another cave.
I would. All right. In answer to that question, it's not so much a gameplay mechanic because I don't want to speculate too much on what I think he would do because I find that to be almost arrogant. To say that he should include this. Dude, that dude is a visionary. Let him make his game. Whatever he gives us is probably going to be fantastic. But from a technical standpoint, one thing I really hope is in there, and I can't blame him personally if he doesn't do this, is some sort of ability to transfer your progress from the first 2 games to the third. And I realized to do that, you would have to convince Sega to re-release the first 2 games onto the PlayStation 4.
Yeah, have that Shenmue HD re-release, yeah.
That's a tall order, because you have to get those 2 games first, and then once that's established, you find a way to, move things over. That would be my number one thing I would really love to see in Shenmue 3, just because of how significant that is going from Shenmue 1 to 2. However, I think it kind of has a snowball's chance in hell of actually occurring. Even if Sega does cooperate and actually does re-release the games, which they very well might, they'd be really stupid not to.
I hope so. Yeah, that, as you said, they would be stupid not to. Yeah.
Yeah. So aside from that, I just hope that he gives us more of what made Shenmue so amazing, just an immersive experience that really just compels you and draws you in with its incredible story, but. Also the fun mechanics of it. From what I've been reading about it, he really wants to evolve the series. So take whatever that means with a grain of salt, but I'm looking forward to it.
That actually leads in nicely to the next question I have for you. Obviously, the gaming landscape has changed since Shenmue 2 was released. How do you think Shenmue 3 is going to stand up to the way the gaming communities are now compared to when how they were in 2001? Do you think it would be a good idea for him to maybe implement some sort of modern mechanics from games such as The Witcher 3, Grand Theft Auto 5? Like, do you want it to be that kind of open world, or do you still want it to obviously just be like Shenmue 1 and 2 were?
All right, so when it comes to the open world thing, a lot of people now associate that with like the ability to just use more violence, which I don't really feel is necessary with that particular game. I wouldn't want him to change what he wants to make because of, shall we say, social pressure. Now, when it comes to the immersion thing and the grand scale of it, we have to remember that Shenmue 1 takes place in a populated area of Japan. Shenmue 2 takes place in Hong Kong, one of the biggest cities on the planet. People forget that at the end of Shenmue 2, he's going to a place called Bailu Village, which he openly says has a population of 50 people. How big can we really expect it to be?
That is true, yeah.
I kind of feel like there's going to be a mixed reaction to that, because logically, the game doesn't need to have such a giant scale since it is just a landscape with a handful of people in it. Because that's what the story wants and has always demanded since Shenmue 2 was made. But I can see the flip side where people are like, oh, but the first one and the second one were so big and this one's so cheap and little. This sucks. I'm not looking forward to the inevitable misunderstood fan reaction from that. But that's why I've tried to ignore that and be like, look, I think it was always going to be that way. Even if Shenmue 3 had hit the Dreamcast back in the day, it probably would have been exactly the same way, because, again, he's going to a rural Chinese village.
Yeah, exactly.
Why would it have giant skyscrapers that you could explore? That doesn't make sense.
Obviously,
there would be no reason for him to be able to take a helicopter and pilot it and shoot stuff. That doesn't need to be there.
Obviously, taking into consideration what you mentioned earlier about Shenmue 1 being a smaller location, and just what you've mentioned about Bailu Village obviously being a smaller location as well. Do you think this will give him an opportunity to maybe get that same feeling that fans got from Shenmue 1 with Shenmue 3?
I really hope so, because that you're right. That's an absolute beautiful situation to create a lot of detail for whatever he wants to do. I don't. On the other hand, though, I don't think people are necessarily going to be blown away anymore by the idea that you can pick up any object and just look at it. As neat as that is, it's one of those things that's kind of an afterthought.
Do you think that needs to be in there, though? I
would hope so.
Yeah, like a nod to
it would really help with the immersion.
Yeah.
Shenmue 2 did kind of lack that, because Shenmue 2 was a tad more action-paced in certain situations. But But Shenmue 3, again, we don't really know what he's planning. For all we know, like, Lan Di shows up with an AK-47 and he has to, like, we don't know. We have no idea what the plan is.
That is true, yeah.
It could have always intended to be some giant action game, but yeah, I don't know. I hope it does have more of that vibe, though, the real immersive world.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So, taking a step back from Shenmue, mainly going back to your YouTube career now, what motivated you to start a YouTube channel?
All right, so I went to Columbia College, Chicago, as a film student, and I always wanted to do things in film and video. And I just started doing various short films and movie review shows, and it was hard to make that much content out of that. And the only, of course, a good place to distribute it was YouTube.
Yeah.
But it was hard to make content that frequently, especially under YouTube's like insane copyright strike system.
Oh, yes.
So I started thinking, like, what else? I kind of want to grow a fan base here and just kind of make videos. And the one that I kind of looked around, I was like, well, I have a lot of video games. I like video games. Let me talk about video games. And it just kind of evolved into that, and eventually got to the point where I really wasn't doing the films anymore. I was just doing the YouTube stuff. Yeah. I still do film stuff, but I never bother to post it anymore. I just do that, for work purposes now.
Yeah. And obviously, is there any advice that you would give to maybe small YouTubers who are just starting out? Maybe some experiences that you've had yourself and how they could progress themselves on YouTube?
Yeah, don't ever do a collection like room video ever. It's a terrible idea. I can't. Whenever I see somebody do that, I just go like, oh, I just facepalm, because you know what I'm talking about. People will be like, here's my whole collection. It's like, that's a really bad idea, because then you have nowhere to go. You just showed everyone everything you have. You have nothing left to talk about. You can't really do videos on it. You also showed everybody kind of what they already want to see, so you can't kind of keep them on the hook for anything in the future. Yeah. And of course, the video, assuming you continue to collect things, will be out of date immediately. And then inevitably you'll get people being like, why don't you get this? And you might have already had it for years after the video was published.
Yeah.
That would be one tip. Don't ever do a collection tour video.
That actually
really bad idea.
That actually cancels out a question I had for you. I was going to ask
Which was, are you going to do one?
Yep, I was going to ask.
Well, the answer to that is, the only way I would do it is if it's my last video.
Fair enough.
That's what I've said. Like, if I decide for whatever reason I'm quitting YouTube, I don't want to do this anymore, that's the last thing I'll make.
Okay, fair enough.
This is what it looked like at this point in time. Later. But I have no plans to do that currently. Other tips I would give you is I hate when people do this, because they never understand how bad of an idea this is. Whenever you get someone who's just starting out on YouTube, they will inevitably go into the comments of other videos and be like, hey, check out my channel, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and they do it on a lot of different videos. Yes, spam, exactly the correct word. What they don't realize, anybody who does that doesn't realize that YouTube will not only, take down your comment, it'll stick it in the spam section, and then anything you post after that will consider your account spam terminated. So your channel will exist, but it will not be in YouTube's algorithm, and no one will see your videos.
Yeah.
Do not go around telling people in YouTube comments, check out my channel instead. It will kill your channel. It's like the exact opposite effect that you want. YouTube does that to punish people.
So what would be the best place in your experience to actually get a channel noticed? Obviously, it's a fine line between spam and, trying to get out there. Is there anything in your experience that you did to help promote your channel?
No, I just made videos, and people came to it because I didn't do any of that shit. Yeah. I was like, I never bothered people being like, come watch my crap. Like, I never do that. Yeah. I didn't do the damn collection video. I just made videos that I was like, I would want to see this. I would be interested to know, like, for example, I did like a video on the Sega Saturn VCD card. I was like, no one else did this. I want to do this. I want to know more about it. I'll study it and I'll show you guys what I found.
Yeah. And
if anybody wants to watch, that's fine. Whatever. I don't care. And it happens. People will find you on that basis.
That's what I was meaning to ask you as well. I mean, obviously, I watch your YouTube videos, and you seem like a really, when it comes to video games, you have so much knowledge. And I was meaning to ask you, do you obviously research every topic you do? Because obviously with your videos, you don't seem to cut them or anything. It's just all one take. And that's the thing that blows me away about your videos. I mean, do you actually research each topic that you're about to do? Or is it really just off the cuff, off all the knowledge that you already have?
Generally, it's off the cuff, but there are some situations where I better double check a date before I start recording.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this console launched on this day, and it's like, no, wait, maybe it didn't. Let me check that first. Okay, yes, now I have it. Let's just go.
Before you get the keyboard warriors in, innit?
Yeah. Well, you still make mistakes, especially when you're just going off the cuff, and you'll never hear the end of it. But it's whatever. Generally it's off the cuff. That's another piece of advice. Do not talk without confidence in a video. There's nothing worse than watching a guy being like,
well,
I was playing my game. I was playing this part, and I don't know, maybe it wasn't that good, but did you guys like this game? Like, nobody wants to hear that shit. Nobody wants to hear that shit. You have to own that shit. If you're like, no, the GameCube, this game was awesome, blah, 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 you have to, hit that home. That's just like giving a good speech. Nobody is going to want to watch, like, a person who has no confidence in their speech. Yeah. And as you can tell from me, I'm loud and annoying. I make my
confidence, man. It's everywhere. Like,
appreciate it.
So with the going back to Shenmue now, and with your collection, is there any Shenmue related item that you don't own but you would love to own?
Yes. There is in Japan, when they were releasing Shenmue and Shenmue 2, and actually like any game they would do, they would release a press copy to people, like the media, and it would say sample on it, like a blue logo on the front. Other than that, it would look exactly the same as like a regular Dreamcast release, but it would say sample. Yeah. I have that for Shenmue 1. There is a sample version of Shenmue 2. I do not have that.
Oh, how much did the Shenmue 1 sample cost?
Oh, that's the thing. They're not really worth anything. They just don't ever come up. Yeah. I think I bought it for like $30. $30 USD. Yeah. And that was a few years ago, though. I stupidly saw a Shenmue 2 sample one, and I didn't pick it up for some dumbass reason. I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, oh, maybe I'll get it later. I do
that loads, man. It's just not good, is it?
Yeah, that was like a dumb decision that I made. I think I passed on it for like $40, and I regret it wholeheartedly. Yeah. But just not because it's expensive now. It's just because I never see it. But that would be like the one thing in my Shenmue collection as of now that I'm like, yeah, I need that. But I haven't found it.
Yeah. Okay, and this is just the final question for myself before we go on to the community questions. What is your favorite Shenmue memory?
I guess in a sense it's. Do you mean like from me playing it, or like something that happens in the game?
Basically anything. Like it could be a specific part in the game, or maybe a feeling that you got whilst playing the game, or
I guess. Anything. All right, I guess I would say the first time I finished Shenmue 2, because Shenmue 2 ends on this like ridiculous cliffhanger, obviously, because we've all been suffering over it for like 15 years. And I remember the first time I finished it was like in 2003. Yeah. All right, and I played it, and I was like, all right. I'm in. What do I got to do? Let's make this happen. It was just this exciting moment where I realized how great Shenmue was and how much I really wanted the next one. And that feeling never went away. It's still here. And obviously at E3 this year, we finally got some, holy shit, it's finally going to be resolved. But yeah, so I guess that would be it. Because that was the moment where my Shenmue fangirl turned on. Like, that's where that was like,
How did you hear about it, man? Where were you? Were you watching the conference, or?
Oh, for E3?
Yeah.
I was sitting like 5 feet away from where I am now, just watching the live stream. Yeah. And I was Skyping with my girlfriend, and her feed, for whatever reason, was like a moment ahead of mine. So she was watching it, and I was watching it. And that part when the thing where the guy, or Adam Boyes says like, fans are very, very excited about. Then the feather starts to fall.
I know. Man.
She saw that like 10 seconds before I did. Yeah. So I'm looking at her reaction on Skype. She's like, I'm like, what are you reacting to? And then all of a sudden, oh my god! That was an insane night because, not only did that get announced. All right, so I live in Chicago in the United States, and the Chicago Blackhawks, our hockey team, won the Stanley Cup that night. Only like 10 minutes later.
Was it like
after
the best
day of your
life? Like,
so I'm like, as after the game's announced, I'm like pacing around my apartment, going nuts. And then outside, everybody's like celebrating. There's fireworks and everything. And I'm thinking, I know they're talking about the Blackhawks out there, but it feels like they're all celebrating Shenmue. That was an amazing, unique experience that only people from Chicago got to have. So shout out to my fellow Chicago residents. That was so cool. But yes, that would be now, I guess, perhaps my new favorite Shenmue memory was that night when Shenmue 3 announced.
Nice, man, nice. Well, that does it for the questions that me and Kieran had for you. I'll just move on to some of the questions we gathered from the community. We have one here from Twitter at SD0X. Do you think they should intertwine the Virtua Fighter lore within the Shenmue lore?
Not in a canon way. I mean, they've always kind of done that. I mean, Shenmue started off as Virtua Fighter RPG. At one point, exactly, it was supposed to be a direct part of the series. I think they were wise to deviate from that. And I like that Virtua Fighter can be inside of Shenmue as a game, as like merchandise and all that. I wouldn't really want like Akira to show up in the game. You could probably have Ryo show up in a Virtua Fighter game because Virtua Fighter doesn't really seem to have a story.
That's what I was thinking.
If I'm wrong, yeah. I'm not a huge Virtua Fighter aficionado. I guess I wouldn't really want them to connect in a canon way.
Yeah.
But that's me.
Okay, and we have one more question from at Cardiff Retro. Nozomi or Joy, please state your reasons.
Oh man. I guess I'm gonna go with Joy because she seems more like
good choice.
She's not as innocent. Like I feel like if you're dating Nozomi, you come off as like almost like a pedo or something. Like she's not too. Well, I guess she is. She was like 17 in the game.
I think so. Yeah.
You get my point. She seems too innocent, whereas Joy seems like she's been around the block. You wouldn't really have any guilt about dating her.
She'd be off a laugh, wouldn't she? Like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like she could stay out past 11.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. Well, Adam, that brings the interview to a close, man. I want to thank you for coming on, man, and taking the time out to have a chat with us.
Sure. It was fun to do something with someone in Cardiff. I actually was there like a year and a half ago.
No, man, yeah, I saw your video of Super Tomato. Like, would you be willing to come back onto the show after Shenmue 3 has been released?
Yeah, sure.
All right, sweet, man. That's great. Well,
you'll have to give me some time to play it first.
Oh, yeah, of course, man. Of course, yeah. Well, that's great, and thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks again for having me.